Hey. I'm so glad that you're here. I was afraid I would get here this morning. I actually dreamed this, that I got here this morning and I was here the wrong day. So none of y'all were here. And I wasn't supposed to be. I don't know. But anyways, I'm glad that we're all here together. I was thinking this week, and I remember this guy. He was a young guy. He was working at a church and trying to get, family going, all this stuff. And in one season of his life, he lost like 2 or 3 really important people to him in his life. And through, he battled through that, but he was also like running fast in this growing ministry, and there was just all kinds of stuff going on, spiritual warfare. There was just stuff, and it was just a really hard season for this guy. And so this guy, one afternoon, he began to believe what the enemy was saying to him about, hey, you're no good, whatever. And so this dude goes and tries to take a bunch of substances so that he doesn't wake up the next day. That guy was me. If you want to leave now, I understand. They don't give the mental health series to the mentally healthy person. Gosh. I mean, it's like, look, do you ever been to a plumber's house? They got a leaky faucet. They got, this stuff works great for y'all, but not for me. No, I just wanted you to know that that's part of my story, but it's not my story. You see the difference? And all of us have seasons, and all of us have issues in our life, whether it is genetic, whether it's through health issues, whether it's something that happens or had happened to you at some point in your life. I don't know. I don't know where you're at, but what I hope that we learn over these next 3 to 4 weeks is that humans are human. And our sin is sin. Yours may look different than mine, and mine different than yours, but all that's kind of there's this other thing that we forget, is that all of us have issues in our lives that we need help with, that we can't do on our own. And so that's what we're going to look at. What does the Bible say? Most people don't even know that the Bible talks about mental health. I mean, if I were just going to take a quick poll on my Instagram right now, here we go. Just raise your hand. Did you honestly think one day, hey, you know what? I bet the Bible talks a lot about people with mental illness. Who? I'm the only one. Exactly. But it does. It really does. But let's just look at some things, right? Let's just figure out kind of where we're at. Here's mental health facts. This is just USA. You can get these at googleit.com. You can do all this stuff. This is just out there on medical journals. 13 million U.S. adults reported having suicidal thoughts last year. That's roughly 1 in 5, so just start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So what I'm saying is we're not the only ones. I want you to hear me say that this morning. If mental health is something that you struggle with, you're not alone. The enemy wants you to be alone, because then he can whisper stuff into your ears that isn't true, right? So 13 million, 1 in 5. When you get to young adults aged 18 to 25, it jumps to 23 million a year. Don't be shocked yet. Because when it's in adolescence, 12 to 17, 26 million. I don't know about you, but I'm not okay with 26 million young people that have no place safe to talk about this stuff. Are you okay with that? I didn't hear it. Are you okay with people not being able to talk about this? No, we shouldn't be. We got to be able to talk about it. And I would love for the church to be the safest place in the world for someone to talk about it. Because sometimes people who have mental health issues have to mask it so that people don't believe differently about them than they may have previously believed about them. And that's part of my story. I was a pastor. I'm supposed to have all this stuff figured out. Was it a lack of faith? Did I not read my Bible enough? Did I not hold my mouth right there, just as I am? Young people, that's an old song they used to sing. like when Moses was moving the sea stuff, right? And so, but this needs to be a place where we can say, what does the God of heavens and earth say about this? And he, as we learned earlier, most people just don't know that he's talked about it, because he has. So I'm not okay with these. So what about the church, right? Surely the church is in better shape. Well, 7 million Christians in the U.S. experience major depression annually. That's just the people who actually see somebody, actually get counted, actually do something. The statistics of people who are ashamed and don't want to disappoint somebody or doesn't want someone to think poorly of them, those are the people that don't go get help. These are just the people who actually are brave enough or encouraged enough in culture settings to say, I have issues, right? 76% of people who go to church will say mental health is very important in our community. Like we don't want to see young people struggle. We don't want to see young families struggle. We don't want to see older people struggle. So we don't want it. Well, okay, so what do we do about it? Well, if we're not talking about it at church and we're not understanding what Jesus has taught about it and shows us in the Bible, it's kind of hard. And so, yeah, and we get it. Not everybody knows about this stuff, so that's why we're going to talk about it. It's very important. Now this one, hold on. Oh man. No, not today, Satan. 12% of clergy, that's this really weird term to call people like me and Clay and clergy, right? Pastors is what we say. So people who are in ministry, let's just put it that way. People who are in ministry. 12% of people in ministry experience depression, 14% anxiety, and 7% of them have both simultaneously. And those numbers, in comparison to the number of like normal people who don't have their job doing this, significantly higher than general population. So, this is why it matters. Jesus didn't just come to give us fire insurance. That's a horrible way to think about Jesus dying, buried, resurrecting, right? It can't just be fire insurance. No, it's to live life. And so Jesus cares about you, your whole person, body, soul, spirit, like everything about you. Jesus cares about it. So that's why we need to talk about mental health. What about Galatians? If you can start in chapter 6, verse 2, you can go to chapter 6, verse 9. It's this whole diatribe that Paul says, the one another's. And we carry each other's burdens. And how can we do that if we don't know? This is a true story. I got to tell it, and it's funny. Now. So this really happened. So, you know what? I'm not going to tell the story. I'm going to wait. Nah, I got you, don't I? Silence from the church breaks public trust. So I do most of my work in consulting in generational stuff. And can I just tell you that mental health matters to emerging generations far more than it did. Not saying that it should or shouldn't have. I'm just saying it didn't, right? And so there's a whole generation of young people out there looking to the church to make sure, can we trust you? Will you actually tell us what Jesus is talking about, not whatever some dude did over here? Yeah. So they want to believe what we're saying is true. There's a whole generation of people who walked away from the church who are coming back, and they just want to go, okay, can this be like a different kind of experience than I had before? Because the one before wasn't very fun. And I don't mean fun like, ooh, we should be here to have fun, but like it hurt them. It did damage to them. So this is important, right? This is why it matters spiritually for us to talk about this. And if we're mentally healthy, I know that's relative. I can relate. Y'all can laugh at those jokes. It's okay. There you go. It's okay to laugh at yourself if you have mental health issues. If somebody else laughs at us, though, we'll take up for each other, won't we? But this is important, just for us to be ready to do what God's called us to do right here in Charlotte and the surrounding areas. Cool? So this is why. This is why we're going to do this whole thing. All right, Bible, 1 Kings. 1 Kings, if you use a tablet or an iPhone, the YouVersion Bible, please turn there. Go to events. All of my notes will be in there. You won't miss any of those if you want these notes. And yeah, so did I kill enough time for you to get to 1 Kings? Okay, cool. When Ahab got home, where was Ahab? You're like, well, tell me. I don't know. That's my point, is we start this thing and we don't really know what's happened. So let me tell you what's happened. Elijah goes up to Mount Carmel, and he challenges all of the prophets of Baal to like a duel. Let's duel it out. Now, what you have to know is that the god Baal is what it's pronounced, but Baal for us Southern people. So Baal was the god of fertility. That wasn't just for humans; it was for crops. It was for the land. So they were in this great desert that doesn't get a lot of rain. They were in a drought on top of that, so it's really, really bad. And so he goes, okay, watch this. I'm going to challenge Baal. And so they go up on the mountain. And here's what happens. He builds an altar. Elijah does. He builds this altar and rock and wood, and then he draws a moat around it, like a big trench, and they dump 4 5-gallon buckets of water on this whole thing. The bull, all this stuff. Well, the prophets of Baal do the same thing over here on theirs. And so Elijah says, let you and Baal go first. Okay, cool. So they start dancing around, they're cutting themselves, they're hollering, they're yelling. I can't really picture what was going on at this church service, you know what I mean? But I bet it was wild, right? So they're dancing all around, they're cutting themselves, they're doing all this stuff. And Elijah goes, I think you guys aren't doing it loud enough. Take up the volume a little bit. And so they get louder and nothing's happening and it's so cool. And then Elijah's over here snickering and he goes, maybe he's in the bathroom and he's indisposed right now. It's like, this is what's going on. And then Elijah, soaked altar, nothing happens over here. He just steps up, says a simple prayer. With the God of the heavens and the earth, would you accept this offering? And it says the fire falls from heaven and it burned up everything. The moat, the water, the sticks, the bull, all this stuff. And then he gets to kill all 450 prophets of Baal. Dead, gone. Ahab's getting home from that event. You see what I'm saying? It's important. By the way, who's Ahab? He's the king of the northern kingdom. There was a split after Solomon. Northern kingdom, southern kingdom. And so this is the northern kingdom. So Ahab is the king. He told Jezebel everything that Elijah had done. What a tattletale. You ever had one of those in your house, a tattletale? If you said no, you're it. So told, and including the way that he killed the prophets of Baal. So Jezebel sent this message to Elijah. We have a lot of text, that's why I'm not putting it up here today, sorry. Sent this message to Elijah. May the gods strike me and kill me if by this time tomorrow I have not killed you just like you killed them. Elijah was afraid and fled for his life. Hang on. You were just on the top of Mount Carmel, yes. And you challenged 450 prophets to one, yes. You told them that the God of the heavens and the earth is going to literally, in a drought, he's going to come down, take this offering, and even the water. Yeah. Why are you afraid of Jezebel? And therein lies the question for us all, because I think if we're honest, all of us have seen God show up at certain times and at certain points in our lives where we thought he never would, but we don't know about it until it's over, and then it's, hindsight's 20/20. The unfortunate thing about mental health as it pertains to our relationship with one another and with Jesus is that we can talk about a whole lot of things, but that one we don't like to talk about because we think it makes us weak, and this is the one that's really hurtful, is when people would say, you're crazy. And again, there's many reasons why these things happen. That's not what we're talking about yet. It's just that God cares about this stuff. It's important. But you do have to ask the question, Elijah, you're hugely successful. You just defeated The prophets of Baal. Everyone thinks that you are literally the last prophet on the entire planet. It's just you. You're the great. Do you remember when Jesus went up on Mount Carmel or Mount Hermon and does the transfiguration? Who was there? Moses and Elijah. Who do people say that I am? Well, some say Elijah. Elijah is a famous, successful prophet of God. And he's afraid. And please hear me this morning say this, that your relationship with Jesus does not absolutely keep you away from things of this world. Here's what I'm going to say. It's interesting to me that if you go to a doctor and let's just say your cholesterol's high, not that I know anything about this, okay? So, and the doctor goes, man, cholesterol's a little high. What are you eating? Well, I have eggs and bacon in the morning, and then I have whatever for lunch that's cooked in the bacon fat left over from the bacon this morning, and then, tonight I'm going to have a steak, but I use beef tallow, and we're going to put that on there. It's like, oh, okay, whatever. And the doctor goes, okay, I want you to take this cholesterol medicine, because this cholesterol medicine, it's going to help bring those numbers down. It's going to make your life a better way to live, and for longer. So why is it that when we go to a doctor and we have something chemically wrong with our brain, we're shamed about it? Now, we'll take a cholesterol pill and eat a whole jar of peanut butter because we're stressed about our cholesterol level. But you got something broken in your brain? No, there's no way. There's no way a prophet like Elijah is afraid and runs away from Jezebel. He went to Beersheba, a town in Judah, and he left his servant there. Now, here's the second thing. We got a lot of passages. I hope y'all are ready because we got to go. Here's the other thing. Oftentimes when we're experiencing mental health issues, we either suppress them because we don't want to disappoint who we think we are. Let that land. We don't want to talk about it because then we have to admit this is who we are. So we just suppress that. Nope. Because we have to be that, because the next step of that is that we want to know if everyone else knows this about me. And they hide, suppress. How you doing? Man, it's awesome. And inside they're dying. So, the point is it can happen to anyone. Anyone. Some of the strongest, most godly people I've ever known in my entire life had seasons where they struggled with mental health issues. Elijah's no different. So he went alone. That's the second step. When we have to start admitting this stuff, we kind of isolate. I don't want anybody to know this about me. Then he went alone into the wilderness. He sat down under a solitary broom tree and prayed that he might die. I have had enough, Lord. Take my life. I'm no better than my ancestors who've already died. Now, I am not a licensed professional mental health person. I just want you to understand that. But I know enough to know this, that when someone says, this world is better without me, take my life, I've had enough. I don't know if I can go again tomorrow. Those are all key phrases that we need to listen for. And usually they're going to be masked in humor or anxiety. But they're going to be said in ways that if we pay attention and we understand. So here's this guy. He killed 400. This is incredible. If I said right now, hey, God, I'd like for you to drop cheer wine just right here, this big fountain. We're going to have baptism September 14th. God, can we have like cheer wine baptism or something? It'd be great. I'll have to tell you about cheer wine another day. It's a whole other story that you'd love to hear about preaching. So, back to it. Why are we going to talk about it? Well, let's talk about this passage. This is an actual picture from an actual trip that I took to Israel. You're looking at part of Mount Carmel. That's what you're looking at. But you may not be able to see, but this little kind of riverbed, you see that riverbed? Goes all the way through, all the way over here. There's like some goats running underneath here, if you can't see them. But this tree, this is a broom tree. And they live in these riverbeds all over the En-Gadi Desert, which is where the people of Israel would have walked around in circles for 40 years. So here's what Elijah does. I want you to see what Elijah does. Elijah says this, okay, I'll leave my servant over here because he's probably going to talk some sense into me. He's going to say, so I'm isolating myself where I can't have truth from other people. And he begins to walk, and it says that he laid down under a solitary broom tree. He laid down and was sleeping underneath. Now, I know you're saying, Christian, can you get to the point? What are you trying to do? Okay. I'm standing up here. This is called a wadi. Because water, wadi, it's called a wadi. I took this picture. We got on a bus and we drove to another part of the Holy Land, and our bus driver got a call that someone drowned in that wadi 20, 30 minutes after we were there. Because these wadis, when the rain comes, it is fierce. And it will literally flood these 6, 7, 8 foot wadis with water. You don't think Elijah didn't know this? Right before that happens, he tells Ahab, you probably need to get in your boat and get going. Here's what I'm saying. Elijah knew that if he could lay down right there, and if he could sleep long enough, the problem would take care of his problem. You see what I'm saying? But the Bible doesn't talk about this stuff, right? He knew. He knew if I go lay down in a wadi, I can stay reasonably comfortable for my life to be over. And it's textbook. It's textbook. There's nothing spiritual necessary about it other than it's a person who is a spiritual person, a human being who's experiencing these things. So, this is where he's at. I've left because there's pressure on me. I've been successful. These other people have already rebelled again. So maybe I'm not as successful as I thought I was. Jezebel, who's the most powerful woman on the planet at the time, is going to kill me. I'm tired, God. And this morning you may be a person who says, I'm tired, God. But can I just encourage you, get up. Get up. That's all you got to do. One more time. I don't want to live. Get up. One more time. That's not a huge goal, right? Just get up. But what if I have to get up 400 more? We're not focusing on 400 more. We're focusing on this one. Get up. But we need people in our life. We can't be isolated like he had done in this instance. But I love the rest of this because this is the hope. This is the gospel. We all have issues. We all have problems. But I love what God does. It says this, that God says, get up and eat. Well, he wakes up. There's an angel standing there. What? God said, get up and eat. Now listen, I don't know about you, but I think there's a lot of biblical evidence for lots of good food in eternity. I know. check Hesitations chapter 4. But that's not a book of the Bible, by the way. If I were to write a book of the Bible, I think that's what it would be called, but no. I don't want us to lose sight that he needed someone else in his life. I also don't want us to lose sight of the fact that you may be going through some struggles or you may be on cloud nine. It doesn't matter. Either person can have mental health issues. Like that. It's true. It can be any of us. And so what we see in this, I love, just watch the picture. Touched him, get up, eat. He looked around, and right beside his head there was bread that had been fresh baked. You ever had fresh bread? That's good stuff. And a jar of water. So he ate and he drank and he lay down again. Now, why is he laying down underneath a tree? God meets him where he is. And he goes, I'm going to lay back down. So God says again, get up, eat some more. This journey ahead will be too much for you. Is God done with him yet? Nope. And if you have breath in your lungs this morning, God's not done with you either. If you ever see my hand, there's a semicolon right here. If you ever see someone who has a semicolon, just understand that they struggle with their mental health, maybe even to the point of an attempt to end their life. So when you see those, you go, all the time when I'm out and about, I know. We have like this fraternal, like brotherhood and sisterhood. Server can see that and go, hey, and show me theirs, me too. So we need each other. And this isn't an emotional charge to try and get you to feel sorry for or whatever. This is simply the gospel. That Jesus takes broken men and women like me and like you, and he uses us mightily. Does that mean you're never going to have struggles? Absolutely not. You're going to have struggles. I'm going to finish this because I want you to see kind of in the wrap-up what that means. So he got up, he ate, and he drank all the food, and it gave him enough strength. He traveled 40 days and 40 nights to Mount Sinai. Now remember, Mount Carmel, close to Mount Hermon. Now he's down, and he's like, oh, Mount Sinai. That's where God gave Moses the 10 Commandments. I mean, this is an important place to the Israelites. He goes, yeah, go there, 40 days, 40 nights. And when he came to a cave, he spent the night. Okay, just resting. But the Lord said to him, what are you doing here, Elijah? I have zealously served the Lord, the God Almighty. But the people of Israel have broken their covenant with you. They've torn down your altars and killed every single one of your prophets. And now I'm the only one left, and they're trying to kill me too. You don't think that's anxiety-packed? Somebody's chasing you around trying to kill you? Go out, God said, stand before this mountain. And as Elijah stood there, the Lord passed by. And a mighty windstorm hit the mountain. It was such a terrible blast that the rocks were torn loose, but the Lord was not in the wind. There are going to be things that come to you or around you or through your life, and it doesn't mean that God sent it. He'll be wherever you are. But everything that happens to you isn't God's fault. He goes on. He says, after the wind, there was a great earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. There's going to be things that shake your life, and some of them God's just not in. Some, it's for us. It's for us to grow. It's for us to look more like Jesus. So he wasn't in the earthquake. After the earthquake, there was a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. Again, I ask a lot of questions, and by the time I've gotten to 3 things, I just usually ask this question. Okay, well then what are you in? Right? Because we try all these things, and guess what? We get to the end of it and go, oh, no, this was not what I was supposed to do. I love this, though. After the fire, there was this gentle whisper. And Elijah heard it. And he covered his face with his cloak, and he went out, and he stood at the entrance of the cave. He says, I have zealously served the Lord, but the people of Israel have broken their covenant with you. They've torn down your altars. They've killed all of your prophets, and now they're trying to kill me too. And God says, just go back home the same way you came. What? I'm running from? I know who you're running from. I know what you're running from. I know why you're running from it. And God just says, one, I am in this with you. I'm in this with you. Secondly, and by the way, there's some more slides, but we're out of time. We're not going to go through them. It's okay. Get the YouVersion. Email me. I'll send them to you if you're all fired up on them. This was the easy way. He didn't see another way. This prophet of God didn't see that he was worth living. And can I just tell you, that is never from Jesus. Because Jesus honors all life. He loves us. But lastly, and I'm sorry, like this is personal to me. It is. Like preachers we're taught to not make things personal. Like, I don't know how to tell people how I interact with Jesus personally. But throughout my struggles through the years, this is what I know to be true, is that Jesus has loved me in the very depth and on the very height. And it's the same for you. It's the same for you. He cares about you. He cares about the way you feel. He cares about the way that you see yourself. But most importantly, he cares about you looking more like Jesus at the end of your life than you did at the beginning. That's the goal for you, for us, for me, all of us. So let's stand together and let's pray. Jesus, over these next few weeks, we are going to be talking about some difficult topics. And some of us don't want to hear it. For some of us, it makes us afraid. For some of us, it begins to draw us into a story that hurts. And so, Jesus, wherever we are, maybe we're thriving right now in life. Would you remind those of us who are thriving right now to be on the lookout for someone who is struggling? And as a person who's struggling, might we remember and know that God meets us right in the darkest place. And he gives us food, he gives us water, but most of all, he gives us himself. We can always count on it, but Jesus, it's a whisper. Rarely is it loud. And so we trust in you, God. Speak to us. Help us love one another. And help us know that you care about our mental health as a church, as a community, as human beings in your creation. And it's in your name we pray. Amen.